Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon session. You're welcome to say where you're joining from, say hello, region. I see East London first to respond. Welcome, East London. Good afternoon. Hello, Anna Becker from East London. Welcome to this afternoon session. A lot of people from East London. Welcome to the webinar, our virtual meeting room. Harteng in the house, Jaco Moelman, good afternoon. Annemie Botha, hello. Bloemfontein in the house, Free State, Anna Boshoff. Percy de Villiers, I see from Lady Brunt in the Eastern Free State. Wonderful. Lons Noah in Roodepoort, welcome to the session. Algaard Ulofse, I think we're a stone throw away from each other here in Krugersdorp. I was saying to the panelists just before we started, if I jump, it's because of the thunder. There's rumbling here. Rosebank. Hi, Bradley and Itumeleng. Polokwane in the house. Hi, Leandri Crawford. Just going to give it a little half a minute more, then we can start with this afternoon session. Hi, Marissa in Alberton. Welcome. Sonia from Potchefstroom. That's normally where our heavy weather comes from here in the West Rand. Welcome, Leonie from George. Johan in Polokwane. Betal Mpumalanga, Nolene van Roy. It's brilliant to have everyone join us this afternoon. Hesh Jivan from Randburg, welcome to the session. Zalna Ellis, Middelburg. Amanda Hutting from Springbok. JJ Pretorius from Swellendam. Welcome to this afternoon session. Great to have you all. Our regular FIC webinar sessions. Matha, I'm going to try your name from KZN. Welcome to the house. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Felicity from Belleville. Welcome to our virtual session this afternoon. And I think with that, I think let's give it a go. Let's start this off. Good afternoon, everyone, and a huge welcome to today's webinar. We're absolutely thrilled to have you here. Today, we'll be diving into one of the most fast-paced and high-impact areas of compliance, AML landscape. Because let's face it, this world doesn't stand still for a second. New notices, obligations, evolving risks, it's a lot to keep up with. And that's why we are here today, to help you make sure your risk-based approach keeps up with the pace of change. Over the next hour, our SME, Cedric Afindi from Masthead, will break down the latest FIC notices, highlight the real risk accountable institutions are facing right now, and my favorite part, share practical and accountable, actionable solutions that can take you back to your team immediately. So whether you're tuning in from your office, your home desk, or on the go, get ready for a fast-moving, insight-packed session that will empower you to tackle compliance challenges with clarity and confidence. This is an interactive session. Feel free to drop your questions and comments in the Q&A section. We want to hear from you. So without further ado, let's get things rolling. Cedric, over to you. Welcome to this afternoon session.
Thank you, Melinda. It is great spending time with you again today. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity that LexisNexis provides to everybody. I think what Melinda just said, talking about fast-paced and ever-changing, clearly when it comes to FIC legislation, there's no doubt that is the case. I just want to check quickly. I just want to make sure that I can get my camera on before we get going. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. So thank you so much, Melinda. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. It's great to have you here. Firstly, I would just like to again say to LexisNexis, thank you. In the last webinar session, the people that reached out to us afterwards, when it comes to assisting, making sure that they navigate themselves through these very complex piece of legislation that has been easy, but is not that easy anymore and requires a lot of outside of the box thinking, applying our minds, making sure that we do what is required by legislation, but at the same time also acting ethically and playing our part as accountable institutions within South Africa to ensure that we protect our democracy within our country and try our best to stop money laundering and terrorist funding. And if we do come across it, that we have the necessary procedures in place to play our part and report, because that's what it's about. Even though it's very complex, the piece of legislation, it's not that easy anymore. What it wants to achieve is simple, but it can only achieve if all of us play our part. So very much a ethical thing on how do I, as a accountable organization, approach this piece of legislation, make it my own, adapt it within my organization, so that at the end of the day, I can play my part. So what we're going to talk about today is that's our agenda. So first, we're going to speak a little bit about the actual legislation. And what we are going to discuss is what actually happened in 2025, because some of you there have implemented a RMCP back in 2024, and then 2025, you maybe reviewed it, maybe not, but there was quite a couple of changes that happened within 2025, which required accountable institutions not just to go and reevaluate how they do business when it comes to their business risk assessment, but also to update their risk management compliance program. So we're going to reflect on what happened in 2025. And then I'm going to highlight some areas of non-compliance. And then I've got a slide, which is a very, very busy slide, where I will actually read a sanction notice, a small part of a sanction notice that was sent to the names is not mentioned, by the way, hence the fact that it's confidential for now, but that was sent to a legal practitioner relating to the submission and completing of Directive 6. Look at that. And then we're going to talk about the current risk signals to prioritize across onboarding and ongoing monitoring. And that's where we're going to delve into more practical tips on how to go about these risks, how to look at it. Sometimes we understand that it's difficult to start. It's difficult to, where do I actually begin? We cannot cover everything in literally 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. That's unfortunately, it is impossible. So it's really, really high level. But we want to highlight because we think it's important. We want you to remain sustainable. We want you to remain profitable. We want you to remain in business and make sure that you protect your organization. And then the last topic you'll see where technology can help streamline customer due diligence, KYC, and beneficial ownership captures. That will be discussed through the 3 other agenda points. I firmly believe that if you look at the changes coming in, that it'll become very difficult for accountable institutions to maintain a manual process. I'm not saying that you cannot follow a manual process. I'm merely saying that you will pick up as we discuss and go through certain points that it's becoming increasingly difficult, and we're going to have to start looking at saving time. And by saving time, we're saving money and we're saving resources, and start using technology in some way or form to streamline what it is that we do. And most importantly, reliable technology. And I think that's crucial. Reliable. There's a lot of people making promises out there, but we need to do our due diligence on who it is that we are using when it comes to technology in our organization. Okay, so let's kick off. So in Feb, there was a guidance, updated guidance note 7A released, and you were required to go and adapt your RMCP and implement some changes. We're not going to discuss that because just as we thought we were done, on the 1st of September 2025, they released a revised guidance note 7A. And that guidance note 7A replaces all previous versions, including the one that was released in February of 2025. And the purpose explains, of course, how accountable institutions must implement a risk management compliance program under Section 42 of the FIC Act. And some of the main updates that comes from that, again, unfortunately, as I say, we can't break it down fully, completely, and look at everything. But from a high-level perspective, RMCPs must be formally approved by the highest authority, and that this duty cannot be delegated to somebody else. That's very, very important to understand. Must be approved by the highest authority. It speaks about a risk-based approach and the strengthening of it. Institutions must identify and manage money laundering, terrorist funding risk in promotion to their business size and complexity. The size of your business and the complexity of who you deal with when it comes to customers, services that you provide, all of these things needs to be taken into account in order for you to produce what the FIC refers to as a business risk assessment. Not just a client risk assessment anymore when it comes to rating the client, but a fully comprehensive business risk assessment. It speaks about customer due diligence. Firms must tailor their customer due diligence process based on the level of risk and, of course, transactions, single transactions, ongoing monitoring, and relationship. There's a big focus on ongoing monitoring of your clients. Of course, depending on your risk rating within your organization, in your clients, that's how you will perform your ongoing due diligence. And then, of course, record keeping. Record keeping, as you know, is 5 years after last transaction, and it must be stored in such a way that it allows group-wide access where applicable. So if your organization is part of a group, and you are an entity in your own right, the RMCP must be accessible to all, and of course those records, where required, at a central point, it needs to be stored and kept. Governance and accountability. Boards and executives bear full responsibility for ensuring RMCP adequacy, implementation, and ongoing review of the RMCP. So, when do I review my RMCP? I will, in general, review my RMCP on an annual basis or as and when I introduce new services or changes in products. One will need to go back, okay? And then, of course, you need to make sure that you've also documented in your RMCP where you align with other laws. And it says it's updated to match the general law around anti-money laundering, CTF Amendment Act 2022, and Public Compliance Communication PCC 59 on beneficial ownerships. Very, very important. Then also we had the Draft Directive 3A and PCC 50A, which came into effect March of 2025. The purpose? Proposed changes to the reporting and data integrity. So it says that in Directive 9 and PCC 50 to cover international funds transfers, reporting international fund transfers under the specific section of the FIC Act. It sets out rules for handling reporting failure of defective reports. So if I was trying to submit a report onto the website via the GoAML system, and there was a failure, what do I now do in order to submit that report? Again, that process needs to be documented within your risk management compliance program. Introduces safeguards to prevent loss of financial intelligence due to system or process errors. Again, coming back to technology. Yes, sometimes technology can fail. But there's, from a risk perspective, there's a bigger chance, much bigger chance, where we have human intervention, where we make mistakes, that when it comes to technology. We need to make sure that the information that we share within our organization, that we save in our organization, is safeguarded in such a way that prevents errors, especially if the FIC wants to reach out to you and asking you for specific information and you don't know where to get it. It's not centralized. It's all over the place. Then we've been speaking about this for the last couple of sections when we speak about section 31, and that's reporting the international fund transfers. But what happened was the FIC began enforcing this section, reporting for international funds transfers. Institutions must now submit the actual international funds transfers alongside with, as you know, section 28 cash thresholds reports, also 28A terrorist property reports, section 29 suspicious transaction reports, and also some additional reports which we'll touch on a little bit later. Then, of course, we had in March, what happened was the FIC released to all accountable institutions where they were the actual supervisory body to submit their RMCPs onto their platform. And the deadline was the 12th of March, where you needed to submit it. Okay. And then it says that what you needed to take into account before submitting your risk management compliance program was the following thing. It needed to be comprehensive, it needed to be implemented and monitored. So when I say implemented, signed off by the highest authority within the organization, because that's only when the document is seen as implemented. And audited and regularly reviewed. All of those things are documented within your risk management compliance program. So unfortunately, what happened? Some people just submitted a document for the sake of submitting it, and unfortunately, some people didn't. And if you didn't, unfortunately, you were flagged. Okay. And I think everybody's thinking was, you know, are the FIC actually going to get to all of these things and review all of these RMCPs that have been loaded onto the website? And yes, they did. And the communication started coming out a couple of months ago where people reaching out to us saying, the FIC came back to me, my RMCP is not adequately, it's not correct, it doesn't align with legislation. Or even I've received a notice from the FIC that I have now not uploaded my RMCP and I will be sanctioned because doing so. If I submit an RMCP now, they will look at reducing the sanction. So they really did commit to not just having it uploaded, but also reviewing it. And if we go through all of these things that I just spoke about, the changes that were introduced, also under Directive 9, this might be applicable to you. I don't know how many of you here present maybe deal with crypto assets, but if you do, there was a Directive 9 which came in effective on the 30th of April. And what that did was, the purpose for that was to enforce transparency for crypto transactions. And the key points we need to take there is that it requires crypto asset transfers to include sender and receiver details. It needs to align with South Africa with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations under point 16, and it aims to prevent money laundering and terrorist financing via crypto channels. The enforcement and inspection was also communicated publicly. And what it said was it's going to increase their inspection and sanctions. And unfortunately, that is what we saw. And this was due to late or missing reports, people having weak RMCPs, submitting them, or having a desktop audit, incomplete risk assessments, non-compliance with sanctions and asset freezes. And then, as you also know, you might have seen it. If not, I'm now telling you that the FIC also upgraded its Go AML reporting platform. It revamped everything to improve accuracy when it comes to data capturing. All of these things that I spoke about now, depending if crypto is applicable to you or not, but all of these things put you in a position where you needed to go and relook and update your risk management compliance program. So if you, by the end of 2024, had a fully compliant risk management compliance program, it would have been required for you to at least throughout this year do 3 updates in the RMCP. Okay. Then, of course, there were amendments to Schedule 1, Accountable Institutions, which was published in the 2025 Government Gazette. They updated the list of accountable institutions under the FIC Act. The impacted ones there, it expanded or redefined which businesses fall under FIC supervision. As you know, legal services, real estate, crypto, and dealers in high value goods, they all now fall under the FIC. And then in August, there was a sector focus released where they take in all accountable institutions depending on different sectors. And then they published and they said the following, and it's something that they were concerned about. They said the FIC highlighted estate agents as high-risk entities for money laundering, reinforced obligations on targeted financial and customer screening for property transactions. You're going to see the word screening popping up a lot more than you have done before. And you're going to have to do it a lot more times that you've done it in the past. It's not the way that it was back in 2019, for an example, when entering into a business relationship. Or again, maybe at ongoing, there'll be much more screening that needs to take place. And then, ladies and gentlemen, all of those things that I just mentioned took place in 2025. What's on its way? And that, of course, is just to prepare you because, as Melinda mentioned, this is an ongoing change and evolution, and it's not going to stop. So it's the AML-CTF amendment bill, which is still pending. So it was proposed at the end of 2024, the bill, I beg your pardon. It's still under review in 2025. And it aims to update the FIC Act and related legislation. And what it's going to introduce or want to introduce is tighter due diligence requirements, public beneficial ownership registers, heavier penalties and they will expand powers for regulators. So again, when this will be implemented, I unfortunately cannot give a date, but that's still what is coming. So did I do 2025? Did I update? And yes, if I did, great. It doesn't mean that you're finished. We're still waiting for this. And in between, it might even be a guidance note that gets released. As you know, our delegates will be flying or will be spending on the 25th of October in Paris to see if South Africa will be coming off the grey list. We cannot take our foot off the pedal. We will now have to maintain what it is that we have implemented, and not just maintain, but grow, in order to make sure that accountable institutions are protected. Because that's what the risk management plan is. It's putting a proper plan in place to protect your business for people that want to use it for money laundering and terrorist financing. I want to share with you some of the big areas of non-compliance, which was also picked up late 2024 and within 2025. And these were the biggest findings of areas of non-compliance. So number one, accountable institutions not including a thorough business risk assessment, which I spoke about earlier, and it is poorly documented in the risk management compliance program. The risk assessment document in the RMCP has been mandatory since 2017. RMCPs are not up to date, and there's a disconnect between what is documented and what is actually put in practice, and that is so true. So whatever is documented in your risk management compliance program is the process that needs to be followed in your organization on a day-to-day basis. It needs to speak to one another. It's a living document. Okay. That's why I say this in every session that I have, that stay away from templates or people sending you stuff, because in the template, this is what you're going to see. I've identified beneficial ownership. I have to identify my clients. I have to train my staff. I have to keep records. They're not interested in that. They're interested in how are you doing it. And it needs to be documented step by step, plain language, and it will be tested against, does it actually happen in your organization? Also, customer due diligence, failing to apply a risk-based approach. If you follow a proper due diligence process, it will be linked to your risk-based approach. Whether your client is low, medium, or high, based on that, you will follow a due diligence process. And most importantly, poor screening of clients or screening after the fact. Remember, Click Act clearly states, you need to screen your clients before entering into a business relationship. Okay. And then, before we move to some of the practical tips that I want to give you from a solutions perspective, as I've mentioned to you, it is a busy slide. But just to show you the seriousness around what it is that we are now seeing, because this directive was released in 2023, and we now have the FIC communicating in 2025, even though it was still there in 2023. And ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, this is the reality, and I would like to share this with you because I want you to be proactive going forward when it comes to this piece of legislation. So this is actually taken from communication sent to a legal practice that did not complete that directive. Now, number one, if you have attended one of these sessions before, you could not complete Directive 6 if you didn't have in 2023 a proper risk management compliance program. It would have been very, very difficult for you to do. That's number one. Okay. So based on what they've picked up here is that this specific law firm did not complete the directive back in 2023. So you'll see under point number 10, very standard, comes in all of those sanctions letters that we get in terms of section 45C, and talks about ranging from caution and reprimand, the directive that's not being completed. Talks about under point number 11, that because of non-compliance under legislation, different sections, penalties, 10 million rand for a natural person, 50 million in respect of a legal entity. And then point number 11.1, in terms of section 45C of the FIC Act, the institution is advised to remediate their non-compliance and to file their RCR data on or before the 9th of September. That's 2025. So they gave you another chance to go and do it. And then it says, in terms of section 45C3E of the FIC Act, a financial penalty of 50,000 if the RCR is not submitted on or before the 9th of September 2025. The institution may pay a reduced fine of 10. So you're already going to pay the fine. You've already been fined. But you now have a choice to pay 50 or to pay 10. Which fine should be paid before the 18th of September? If the 10,000 Rand is not paid before the 18th of September, the full financial penalty of 50 becomes due and payable. And unfortunately, I don't have the time to go through the rest. But if that doesn't take place, then things become serious. Then you will get a visit, and then it'll become a lot more intense. So yes, when they asked for these directives, when they asked for the uploading of RMCPs, they were serious and they are acting on it. And this will keep on continuing. So it's important to note that we're not seeing just please do this and we don't forget, and we don't focus on it. They are focusing on it. And then quickly, just in a nutshell, guidance note 7A, let's just have a quick look very, very quickly, just in the RMCP to sum up everything that we just discussed. Have you updated when it comes to the approval of the RMCP, which cannot be delegated, more detailed information around the accountable compliance? How does your compliance function work? Compliance function sections to include a description regarding seniority and experience around the FIC money laundering officer. Why have you chosen this person to be your FIC compliance officer? Why? Why? And then we had to, if it's applicable to you, group-wide compliance. If it was not applicable, you would add group-wide compliance. Please note that this section of the legislation is not applicable to our organization. Spoke about Directive 224 in sharing of login details, information pertaining to when there are changes to the entity's information and shareholders, or even the FIC compliance officers, talking about business continuity. How is that process going to work? So you have a FIC compliance officer leaving, there's credentials involved, that person needs to hand over. Who's he going to hand it over to? What will be the process? The business risk assessment, which must include inherent and residual risk. Okay, so again in 2024, if you've implemented a business risk assessment, it is now required for you to go and also in that business risk assessment, make mention of inherent and residual risk. And then suspicious and unusual activities, they've expanded on that, when to submit a SAR, a TFAR, STR, and TFTR with the different descriptions in there as well. Okay, so basically what we've covered in the first part. Now let's look at the current risk signals to prioritize across onboarding and ongoing monitoring, which is crucial. And you'll see as we go along with these things, how important technology will start playing a role in keeping up to date with all of these things. So if we look at high-risk customers, so let's look at, as mentioned, to prioritize across onboarding. So I'm onboarding clients. So how should I go about? How should I look? How should I unpack? So let's look at high-risk customer types. Prioritize when onboarding or reviewing customers. So if, for an example, you look at politically exposed persons, both domestic, foreign, and their close associates or family members, must apply enhanced due diligence per section 21F. You need to be able to identify if you are dealing with this specific individual. So you can either have a partner like LexisNexis, which has a great platform where you can actually punch in a name and they'll confirm if it's not, or if it is, or if it's not. So you now immediately know I need to go back to my RMCP and I need to do my enhanced due diligence on these specific individuals. If you don't, it's a manual process. You can't just simply ask the question. You need to be able to evidence that you've guided this individual because, does the person even know what that explanation means of a PEP or, a domestic farm? Well, what does it mean? So that'll probably be a manual questionnaire that you need to complete saying, I've asked relevant questions to this person to determine if he or she is a politically exposed individual or not. Because it does pose a higher risk and it does require enhanced due diligence and it needs to be documented in the RMCP. For an example, high net worth individuals with complex asset structures, especially where ownership is obscured through trust-laid entities or offshore holdings. Clients with adverse media, again, something that can be done on the platform via LexisNexis, or sanctions exposure, especially under the United Nations, EU, or local TFS list. Non-residents, clients of those that are from high-risk countries, as mentioned in the Financial Action Task Force. You go into their website, grey-listed countries. We grey-listed countries. People want to deal with us at this moment in time, whether they deal with legal entities or whether they deal with natural people, automatically they will do an enhanced due diligence on us because we will be seen as higher risk because of the status of the country. So we need to also look at behavior red flags. Customers are reluctant to evade about providing identification or source of funds or documents. Ladies and gentlemen, it's crucial to understand if you cannot perform your customer due diligence process, you cannot enter into a business relationship or a single transaction with somebody. Somebody's not providing you with documents. I understand practically it sometimes becomes difficult, but it is a reality. And something you need to keep in mind. So where you can automate as far as possible. Frequent changes to ownership, directors, or authorized signatories soon after onboarding. Overuse of intermediaries, professional advisors, with no clear business justification. So these are the type of things that you need to do. I know most of you know your clients, and that's wonderful and it's great because it is about knowing your clients. That's what it is. But one needs to start asking these questions, and you need to be aware of these things, especially when dealing with new clients. Okay. Let's look at product. High-risk product services, cash incentives, money remittance, casinos, forex, vehicle dealerships, also paying of cash. Again, crypto assets, we need to put that in there. Specifically under the Directive 9, travel rule, international fund transfers under Section 31, particularly to and from jurisdictions with limited legislation when it comes to anti-money laundering or terrorist funding or oversight around this piece of legislation. If it's a nonchalant thing, you need to take those things into consideration. Private banking, trust or nominee agreements with discretion over funds, property and real estate transactions, especially cross-border purchases. Okay. These are the things you need to ask. Delivery channels, also very important. Non-face-to-face onboarding, online or remote clients. You look at Guidance Note 7A, it requires additional verification measures for digital onboarding to make sure that you know who you are doing business with from an identification point of view. You're going to have to build in certain things. Use of third-party introducers or agents must verify that the introducer is itself an accountable institution and is compliant. Geographical and jurisdiction risk, which is also part of the National Risk Assessment, which is released by the Financial Action Task Force and FIC under their guidance. Clients or transactions linked to financial action, high risk or non-cooperative jurisdictions. Country, as I've mentioned, with weak AML. Jurisdictions under international sanctions. Do you have clients there? Consumers, or are you having clients in South Africa that are maybe purchasing something in one of those countries from somebody there? Customers routing transactions through offshore centers without legitimate economic purposes. Ongoing monitoring, again, should trigger an enhanced scrutiny when New counterparties are from emerging high-risk zones. A client's transactional footprint shifts to higher risk geographies. Transactional and behavioral red flags. When a client transacts with you today, but then also do so within, let's say, the next couple of months, you need to screen that client again. Screening will become very, very important across different types of things. Not just, yes, of course, it's important to know if they are on the required, TFS lists and all of those type of things, but for other things as well. Okay. Unusual transaction patterns like large or structured cash deposits just below reporting thresholds. I'm sure you've heard that one before. Round tripping, funds sent out of South Africa and returned soon after without any economic purpose. Rapid movement of funds between unrelated accounts or jurisdictions, sudden increase in transaction volumes or value inconsistent with customers' actual profile, third-party payments or receipts without clear relationships or justifications, asset movement, value storage, conversion of fiat, for an example, to crypto assets or other digital stores of value, frequent purchase of high-value goods, vehicles, jewelry, property, specifically with cash or crypto, transfers involving shell companies or non-profit organizations used as a front within the entities. Looking at the business relationship and the life cycle risk, again, this is where the screening becomes so important. Conduct and document a risk rating low, medium, high at onboarding, and of course, verify. Customer identity and beneficial ownership and screening is of utmost importance, and the FIC wants to see that. Source of funds and expected account activity, the purpose and the nature of the relationship. Know who you are doing business with. Know what is the purpose of this service or product. What is the outcome? Start knowing what it is that the clients want from you. Scrutinize, check if you are unsure and if it's not clear. Ongoing monitoring stage. Apply a risk-based approach, monitoring frequency. For an example, high-risk clients, continuous or event-triggered review. Every 6 months, I'm going to screen my high-risk clients again, or if there's a trigger review that takes place. Medium risk, I'll do annual reviews. Low risk, every 2 to 3 years, unless the risk file changes. Again, it's a risk-based approach. It's up to you as an organization. What is a trigger review event? Suspicious transactions or behavior. Adverse media updates. You have something about a client, pops up, adverse media. You need to go and have a look, find out why, what's going on. Ask a couple of questions. I'm not asking to be a detective, but start asking some questions. Sanction, listing, or regulatory findings. Major changes in business operations or ownerships. These are all trigger events where there needs to be a process that an organization is going to follow, which is absolutely crucial. And again, if you look at all of these things that are required of us to do, one needs to start putting measures in place, in my opinion, to simplify these things, because it does take a lot of time and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. And then actual practical implementation on record keeping, very, very simple. But I think a very important statement on this slide, ladies and gentlemen, is build a living risk management compliance program. Build something that is aligned with legislation, but works for you, and it is actually speaking to your organizations. Every accountable institution must develop and implement and maintain a risk management compliance program that is documented, approved by senior management, and kept up to date. Document the entire process, please, from customer onboarding to reporting obligations, from start to finish. Include procedures for screening, identification, verification, risk scoring, and monitoring. Keep records of board or senior management approval as per Guide Notice 7A, which was released on the 1st of September when it was approved. Make sure you can evidence version control, assign revision numbers and approval dates of the RMCP. Integrate risk, include high risk signals, PEPs, international fund transfers, crypto, cash, directly into your RMCP and how you are going to approach that. Tailor documentation. Don't copy generic templates. Yes, you get guideline documents, but do not keep it as is. Please do not. They pick it up very, 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 very quickly, that they can see that your mind has not been applied. Ensure procedures reflect your business module. And then, from a guidance perspective, link your RMCP to the Financial Action Task Force aligned with risk indicators sent by them, looking at South Africa from a national perspective, international perspective, Schedule 1 of accountable institution categories, and also look at your internal policies, HR vetting, data protection, and whistleblowing within your organization, which we will also see expanding and needs to be documented in the RMCP, that if an employee picks up something within an accountable institution, but the accountable institution is not acting on it, what can? And nothing concrete there or cast in stone, but we see things evolving going forward. And then, of course, as you know, records must be kept for a period of 5 years after last transaction. Again, this is where technology automation helps you a lot. 5 years after termination. Storage, you can store paper or, of course, electronic, as long as it's achievable without any unreasonable delay. That's not allowed. In your records, identification, verification, document screening, all of those things needs to be there. Transaction records, amount, date, counterparties, the purpose, RMCP version and approval is also part of the documents that you need to keep. It's a whole thick process. Audit findings and remedial actions if you have people that come in, whether it's internal or external, from a monitoring perspective. Centralize your archive, maintain a central encrypted, preferably accessible only to authorized compliance staff, I would say. If group-wide is considered, you need to make sure that it allows, whether there's local and foreign, but it allows everybody to be able to enter into those records. And I think data integrity is very, very, very important. The information that you gather, make sure it's of good quality, and enough information, easy to understand. And then, of course, also in same as that, under the actual integrity is that use access logs and inscriptions to prevent unauthorized tampering or deletion. People might just have something against you and want to go in there and tamper with records or make notes. Almost done, ladies and gentlemen. Just remember, there's 7 pillars of compliance. When it comes to FIC, you need to make sure you are properly registered with the FIC. It might require that you require dual registration because you offer more than one service that is seen under the different schedule when it comes to the FIC Act. Make sure that your employees are trained not just on the FIC Act, proper training, ladies and gentlemen, but also training on the RMCP. Make sure there's a solid governance structure in place. You have a up-to-date RMCP that speaks to all the requirements, that is customized to your organization. Make sure the custom due diligence process is clearly set out, easy, understandable for all to follow and use, that your record-keeping obligations are met, and that you have a system in place when it's required for you to report. And then just to end off, each and every accountable institution has what we call a FIC compliance officer. This person has certain responsibilities. They need to make sure the organization is registered, the RMCP is in place, training takes place, the maintaining and reviewing and the updating of the RMCP and policies and procedures. Make sure that the RMCP also talks about verifying client risk ratings, matrix, and the resources of funds, submissions of reports. And then, of course, that person is the contact person between the FIC and the accountable institution. The reason why I'm bringing this up, this is a big task for one person. And this specific individual within your organization need assistance in order to perform these functions and make sure that the organization is compliant. So please do give this person the necessary support to do so. It's only when collectively as an organization you come together that this piece of legislation can be evidenced and implemented, and it shows that you've applied your mind, you've applied principle, and therefore you've done reasonably what it is that you can to comply with this piece of legislation. There's a little bit of a tick box that you can just have a look at. Most of the stuff we spoke about. The reason why this slide is here is for you to go back and review and just check and see, have I done everything? Is everything in place? Do I feel comfortable with my RMCP? And of course, if not, you are more than welcome to reach out and talk to us. And just before I end off and say thank you, lastly, I just want to say you would have seen that the FIC released information not so long ago, asking accountable institutions, specifically the FIC compliance officer, to log onto the message board on a daily basis. Okay, on a daily basis. So we recently had a masterclass event where one of the executive directors, Mr. Christopher Milan, spoke, and the question posed to him was, why can't you just email the information to us? So answer is very simple. People registered a FIC compliance officer 10 years ago. That person isn't there anymore. There's a new person there. The details are not correct on the GoAML system. The email address has changed. That's the one thing. Secondly, the information in general is not correct, which is concerned. Or the email gets sent to you, but your Outlook or your systems are set up in such a way that it goes to your junk mail or spam. And then he showed some stats of what the success rate was when wanting to open up, the communication, people opening up the email. It was staggering, the percentage. So in order to make it easier, they said, please go and visit the message board. Now, why is that important to visit the message board? First of all, and again, this is where automation comes in and screening and stuff like that. So the list gets updated, and I think the list just went live and was just updated now, I think in the last couple of minutes, if I believe it correctly. I think I've received communication. So there was an update that just came through. That's how quickly this happens. We're busy with an actual session and it gets updated. So what happens is, this is not a FIC rule. This is not any of our rules. This is an international rule that is posed by the Financial Action Task Force, and each and every country needs to adhere to it. If they update the TFS list, you've got 24 hours to screen your clients, to have a look and see if you've ever dealt with one of those people. Now, you might know that you don't, but you still need to go and screen them, and you need to still show evidence that you've screened them against your client base that you have not dealt with these clients, and you need to keep record. So let's say, for an example, there's an update that happens 1 o'clock South African time in the morning. You go to work, you get there at 7:30, 8 o'clock, you have some coffee, at 8:30, 9, you switch on. Now you don't have 24 hours anymore. Your hours have now become less. You might now only have 12 hours to comply with international law when it comes to screening your client base. So that's the reason why they are asking accountable institutions to please check the message board on a daily basis. Okay, so please do so. It's not just about complying with legislation, it's also about protecting your organization. Thank you so much for your time. It was really great spending time with you. I wish you all the best. We are here to help and assist as far as we possibly can. And yes, thank you so much again for LexisNexis for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cedric. Always very insightful and a lot of drops to take in and digest. But I guess that's what we're here for, is to assist our customers and help them with this compliance journey. Next up, you will see a poll that has popped up for you to just give us some insights and follow-up actions with regards to today's session. Vinette will be, welcome Vinette. In the beginning, I'd like to also say welcome to you. Vinette is quickly going to run through the Lexis KYC solution and showcase how this can help you with your customer onboarding and screening for AML purposes. Vinette, over to you.
Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Cedric. I just want to share my screen with you. There we go. So first of all, Cedric Thank you so much for educating us. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed. So when you said during your presentation that it's getting more and more difficult to do this compliance process, to do it manually, we at LexisNexis do have solutions that can assist you, specifically with Lexis KYC and Lexis RefCheck. So when we look at LexisNexis, how we can assist you with your FIC compliance. So when Cedric Nana showed the pillars, specifically to pillar number 5, he spoke about the customer due diligence. So in Lexis KYC, we can screen your natural persons, your companies, your trusts, and we've also added the foreign nationals, where you can verify the details of the foreign nationals that you can add there. And then specifically speaking then to pillar 2, we've got Lexis RefCheck, speaking to the Directive 8 of the screening of your employees, specifically looking at the competency and integrity of your employees. Now, both Lexis KYC and RefCheck are both online solution. There's no installation required. And there's also no registration or subscription fees. So you basically only pay for the verifications that you do. So I saw Nana, and I'm just going to put all the benefits of Lexis KYC on the screen so that you can screen through it. And that there was a question to say that we are a small firm. So with regards to Lexis KYC and Lexis RefCheck, it doesn't matter the size of your firm, your company, whether if you're 1 user or 50 users, you don't pay per user. You can add as many users that will have access and be able to do the screening. Then also it fully integrates with Lexis Convey. Now, Lexis Convey is our program or our solution that specifically looks at the conveyancing process. It's a super user-friendly interface. Like I said, it's online. And it's doing the enhanced due diligence. And like I said, suitable for any size of organization. Cedric also spoke about the footprint and the history and the data that will be stored. That is all built into our solutions. So then looking at Lexis RefCheck, specifically with Directive 8, Lexis RefCheck specifically looks at the competency and the integrity. So you will see that the screen is a little bit small, but there we do have the criminal checks, we do have the ID verification, looking at your competency and the integrity, speaking to your matric checks, looking at your academic checks, and that is also, we've got a built-in electronic consent that can be signed by your employees. And Lexis Sign, one of our other solutions. And then specifically also, let's just look at a summary, web-based batch features available. So now Cedric said at the moment, the TFS lists were just updated. So we at LexisNexis can assist you with your world compliance checks, doing a batch update for you. You can just reach out to us. Looking at no registration fees, no installation, you only pay per verification that you do, transactional billing, free online training and assistance by our support team, and then also a live chat support and account manager that'll be assigned to your firm and your company. So you will see now that there will be another poll on the screen. Please reach out to us. There will be an account manager that will phone you, that will assist you with your registration. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Cedric.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. Cedric, I do believe that time has run out. We had quite a lot of questions during the session, of which most were answered. Thank you so much to our other SMEs sitting and the panelist, Adrian Mains, for assisting with the questions. We will have like 2 minutes. question speaks to were answered as you tread along through your presentation, and being more specific on the detail of what was the requirements. Quite a lot of detailed explanations provided by Andrew as well. I think the question comes into what one of the questions is: the KYC scans for a word, and then you get 10 pages of match results. That speaks specific to the world compliance solutions. And I think, Paula, what we will do is we'll actually meet up with you to discuss why that is so significantly important to have a list of possible matches. Because the possibility of you missing on an AKA, also known as, or an alias for a specific customer that you are onboarding, is really mitigating that risk factor. We do have controls and balances in place that can assist you to tighten down, i.e. the percentage screening. So I will definitely have one of the account managers contact you, and we can tailor that to help you with the scanning and onboarding of the customers. It also comes down to this being a business outlay, a requirement that is not going to go away. And I think a lot of the people here today wanted to find out how will they be able to actually take on this resource and administrative resource as a burden or a financial outlay, Cedric. And I think a key takeaway from this is actually what you just said is that it's not going to go away. It's going to become part of our daily lives. And we need to find innovative ways of making that autonomous administrative burden into slick systems that would be able to assist us to get ready and compliant, as well as audit ready, to be able to bring on the reporting functionality, which has also now become very, very important. What's your thoughts on that?
Definitely. Let's pull it to let's bring it a little bit closer, just to confirm what it is that I said. I just wanted to check confirmation. At 13:38 on the FIC WhatsApp, because they, by the way, they have their own WhatsApp. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you can join that group. At 13:38, the list was updated. So from 13:38, you have 24 hours to go and screen your client base to the new names that were posted on there. Yes, we're going to see continuous changes. We're going to have to make space for FIC within our organization, and we're going to make it work for us. And you can. Compliance shouldn't always work against you. By putting proper business procedures in place, sometimes frustration is linked to not having a proper process or procedure in place. By putting those in place, making use of technology, specifically the solutions that you have, does make this whole process easier, because it's going to keep on changing and evolving as the world evolves. As we evolve as professionals, so does the people that want to do unlawful things. So do they evolve and keep on looking for new avenues, and we need to do what it is that we can do. And boiling down to making sure we protect our accountable institution, our organization, which we work for so hard, that people don't misuse that. And we also need to take it a little bit further, I think. We all live in South Africa. We all want to live in a prosperous country. Some of us have kids, grandkids, and everybody needs to play their part, in my opinion, and do what it is that we can do. Yes, so changes will keep on coming. That I do promise.
Thank you so much, panelists, Cedric, for your input as well. This has been a really good session, a lot of good interaction. Thanks again to the panel, yourself, Cedric, as a specialist in this field. And we will most definitely make the recordings available, as I said in the previous comments, on all our social platforms, YouTube channel, as well as in the Lexis KYC solution. You will find all our previous all our previous recordings that has been made available in there as well. And we will definitely be in touch. As Cedric said earlier on, there's definitely going to be room for at least another 4 years of FIC webinars that we will host based on what is about to come our way. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Looking forward to our next session quite soon. God bless, and have a great afternoon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.